Battlefield 5 has finally released on the PlayStation 4, and I've got a chance to play it since I pre-ordered. And even though Battlefield has had a rocky start with it being pushed back from October to November, and then also having a million different release dates, today we're going to do an initial review on just my first impressions of Battlefield 5, what I like, what I don't like, and then also just some things that I'd kind of like to see changed. I've been playing a lot of Battlefield 5 since the 15th of November, mainly the Assault and the Support class. So while this is not a full-on review, I haven't experienced everything in the game yet. I haven't had a chance to test all of the guns. With the primary game coming out, or the standard edition of the game coming out on the 20th, I wanted to make sure that you guys had a informed decision to make on whether or not to purchase this game. And just know that this is based off of the actual gameplay. I don't care about the drama about the initial reveal trailer. I don't care about the company that released the game. All I care about is how the game plays, how it feels in my hands, and do I enjoy playing it. Let's start with the good. First off, the gunplay in Battlefield 5 is amazing. It is fantastic. The weapons feel like they pack a punch. When you pull the trigger, you feel like you're actually going to be doing damage. I didn't get this feeling from Battlefield 1. I wasn't a huge fan of Battlefield 1 primarily for that reason. The weapons in this game feel great. They've definitely improved it over the beta, and while I was a little nervous about the amount of weapons being released and the lack of American weapons, specifically being that I am American and that's all we hear about in World War II movies and video games here in the US, the weapons I've got a chance to play with, I have liked every single one of them. There isn't one that I just truly hate, although I do have my favorites. Obviously, you'll see from the gameplay, I used the M1 a lot, and for the support, I actually like the MG34 so far. It's a really, really good weapon, especially if you're prone, and it's fantastic. It really works well. I'm not a huge support player, but I actually really liked playing the MG34. It was a little shocking to me on how much I enjoyed that. When you get into the weapons, there is customization options and a progression tree where you're able to pick, I believe, 4 traits for each weapon. Now, in the beta, it was very linear. You couldn't really go from one side to the other. And then also for each weapon, if you wanted to have different designs or different progressions, you actually had to go in and get a new weapon and then put it on there, so you'd have a million different variants. You also couldn't reset the weapons in the beta. Well, that's all changed. The initial release of the game, if you make a mistake while you're progressing your weapon, if you choose less recoil but decide you want to switch it to hipfire, you can do that. You have the option to reset your weapon once you hit level 4 with it and pick new progression path. Now, you don't have to pay any of your credits to get the weapon reset, but you will have to pay credits for each tier that you repurchase. So it will cost you credits when you go back through and pick your 4 tiers. And so if you want to change just one thing, you might want to think about whether or not it's worth it right now, especially early on in the game. But I've done it a couple times with the M1, and I finally found the settings that I like the most for it. And honestly, the progression system was pretty easy to figure out. While you're leveling the classes, you'll unlock new weapons as you go through, and each weapon that I unlocked, I used for quite a while, and each one I liked more and more. And in order to use those unlocked weapons, you don't need to go back to the main menu. You're able to use them the next match that you play. You can't use them in the same match, so if you unlock the next available weapon while playing on Rotterdam, you won't be able to use that weapon until the next map loads in. But you don't have to go back to the menu to go ahead and start using the weapon you unlocked, which is a great change from what I remember from the beta. Moving into the next thing I really like, it's the attrition system. I know this is one thing a lot of people have said that they don't like out of the Battlefield games, and I get it. You know, you don't like having to rely on teammates to give you ammo. There's not a whole lot of supports running around that I've seen. I get shot by them a lot, but I don't see them handing out ammo on my team, and it can be a little frustrating to have to go to the ammo stations or med stations in order to pick up med packs and ammunition. But one thing that I do like is, one, they increased the amount of rounds that you can carry. So you start off with more rounds than you did in the beta, which is great. That way you're not feeling like it's an extra step once you spawn in. You can go ahead and start heading towards the fight. And then also with the attrition system, you know that the person holding down a choke point, they're eventually going to run out of ammo. And that's a good thing to keep the game moving and to keep players engaged. So you can't just hold down one point the entire match and never run out. You actually will need to either have a squad mate spawn on you and bring you some ammo, or you'll have to get up, go get some ammo, and then come back. And I really like that. It adds a new depth to the game. It adds a little bit of planning when you go to a long streak or you're just zerging points from one to the next. You're eventually going to have to stop and get some ammo. And I like that. It kind of slows the game down, but not so much that it comes to a grinding halt, but enough that you kind of have to be a little bit more tactical. And speaking of the attrition, the squad play is so important in this game. And the in-game chat is actually pretty clear from what we've used so far. Now, we do use the party chat normally when I play with the group because we always have more than just the 4 players. And that's one thing I wish they would increase, is the number of players you can have in a group. I know it's probably a PlayStation limitation, but only having 8 in party chat or 4 in your squad is kind of a downer if you like playing with larger groups. Like when we play Battlefront, we always have 20. And then we also have a ton in queue. Now, if we could go ahead and just fill the 32 with friends, that would be fantastic. But we do have a server browser, so that does help get players into the lobby and on the opposing team's side if needed, in order to get more players playing together. So now that we've talked about the things that I really am enjoying so far in Battlefield 5, let's move over to the downside, or the negatives, and that's primarily bugs. Now, every game that release has bugs. I've never played a game fresh out of the box, or day 1 or day 2 or even month 1, month 2 that has not had bugs in it. Every game has them. It's going to happen as long as they're not game breaking, like the white van on Rainbow Six. I'm a little sore about that still, and it's been 2 years. Then, you know, I can oversee most bugs. So some of the ones that we have found, I did fall through the world a couple times. I found that if you are on a vehicle of some kind, you put C4 on the vehicle and then you blow the C4 up and fall off, you will fall through the world. It's kind of fun. There's a random shape below the map apparently, but it's a bug nonetheless, and it's kind of frustrating. You'll also notice you clip into boxes a lot of the times when you're reviving, or you'll clip through boxes, buildings, the floor occasionally. Not too big of a thing. It's clearly a bug. It's not supposed to happen, but it's there. And then also once I got off of a tank, and every time I would spawn in on a tank and then I would dismount the tank. This was using the M1 on Twisted Steel. I haven't run into it since then, but it would offset the sights. So my M1 was too high. I couldn't look down sights or couldn't aim down sights. Anyone who's used the M1 knows that hip firing that thing is not really useful, so I had to switch over to pistol and it was fine. Now when I didn't spawn in on the tank, it wasn't an issue, but it was for that one time or that one instance in that game. The major bug that's going on right now, and we had it last night a couple times, and Karma, who's a regular on the channel, he had it every game, so he had to uninstall and reinstall. Karma, let me know in the comments if that worked, fixing that, but it would load into, or it would say you were loading into the map you just completed, and then it would never load into the next map. The only way to get out of that is to close the game and restart it. I had it happen to me one time. Spidey had it happen to him several times. Karma says it happens every time for him. So I'm not sure what causes it, but if you do know, let us know so we can get the word out there on how to fix it. And that's really all the negatives so far. I mean, there are the normal downsides of a Battlefield game, which I just don't feel are worth bringing up. So yeah, when you spawn in, there are going to be times you spawn in and die right away. That's just going to happen anytime you spawn in on a squad mate, because the spawn system isn't always going to be 100% able to block you from spawning into a firefight or right before a firefight breaks out. And if you spawn in on someone and they're in the open and they're about to take fire that second, you're going to be taking fire too. So that does happen from time to time. That's a Battlefield problem. It's been in every single Battlefield game I've ever played. It'll probably always be there as long as squad spawn is a thing, and that's something that I can deal with. I know a lot of people are upset with the new spotting system because it's hard to see enemy players. I actually like that quite a bit. I like that it's difficult to see enemies. I never really liked the spotting system in the previous series because you would just spam the spot button until it would mark somebody for you, and then you would just shoot at their dot, and then you could never really hide because everyone would just spot everybody else, and then everyone fires on the dots. So I like that the spotting system's changed and is not there anymore. I don't look at that as a negative. That's actually a positive for me. But if you relied on the spotting system pretty heavily in previous titles, it's not in this game. It's a better system of a mark system, so you can communicate better with your team. And now we're going to move on to a couple things that I just kind of wish would change or that they would improve on. So you can't change your assignments in game. You actually have to go back to the menu, which is really frustrating. A lot of the time the assignments are super easy, so you can get through them very quickly. You can complete all of your assignments in one match without even really trying, as long as you know what weapon you need to use or where you need to do the fighting. I've never had an issue where I couldn't complete a challenge in one match if I knew what that challenge was. So the having to go back to your assignments in order to get new ones was kind of frustrating. It took a lot out, and honestly I just kind of let it roll and didn't go back and change assignments until we were done with that play session. Now this is only an issue now because the game's new and I care a lot about wanting to get as many credits as possible to upgrade my stuff. Here in a couple weeks I probably will care a lot less about this because I'll stop caring about the assignments unless I'm trying to get a specific unlock. But most of the time the unlocks that it gives on the assignments are cosmetic only, so it doesn't really affect your game. Speaking of cosmetics that you unlock, you'll notice that some of the uniforms have dynamic patterns on them. So like if you're using the paladin uniform, you can change it once you complete the challenges to have different color schemes according to the map. One thing I'd like to see them do is if you're using one of these dynamic uniforms, every time the map loads in, if you have the uniform unlocked that goes with that tile set or with that map, that it would just switch you over. So if I'm playing on Narvik, which is a snow map, it would give me the snow camouflage if I have that unlocked, or the gray color, the default gray that you normally get. And then if it loaded into Twisted Steel, which is more of a lush environment with grass and it's very green, that if I have the green camo or the jungle camo unlocked, it would go ahead and just automatically switch it instead of me having to go in and change it for each map. I'm not going to change it each map. I'm honestly too lazy and not that much of a tryhard in order to try to match my camo pattern with the map itself. But if you pick a dynamic uniform, it should automatically just switch you. Personally, that's how I feel on that. And then the last thing that I kind of get frustrated with is if you are solo queuing, which I do solo queue every once in a while, squads are all locked. And I get that you want to be able to have your friends join in on you. You only get 4 spots. And that's fine. If you have 4 people in your party when you join in, sure, lock the squad until everybody gets in. But if you solo queue in, you're going to find that the majority of squads are locked with 2 players or 3 players, and then you can never really get into a full squad. And that's kind of frustrating. So I'd kind of like to see that change, that system changed, I guess, so it wouldn't automatically lock the squads. Maybe leave them open and then have you manually lock them if you have a full group coming. Just my 2 cents. Overall, I think Battlefield 5 is a great game. I'm having a ton of fun playing this game. It's way better than Battlefield Hardline, which I didn't really like at all. And honestly, I think it's better than Battlefield 1, which I played for a while, but kind of fell off that game just, again, because the gunplay wasn't that great. I would highly recommend purchasing this game. It's fantastic. It's a lot of fun. If you are on the PlayStation, you can join our Greenie Weenies platoon. It's just GW. And then you can join us anytime you want. If we're in, hop in. It's for you to meet new people. If you've played Battlefield 5, let me know in the comments what you think. Do you enjoy the game? Would you recommend it to others? Again, I highly recommend it. I think it's worth a buy. But give it a shot, rent it, tell me what you think. I appreciate you guys taking the time to watch this video. If you made it this far, make sure to hit that like, subscribe, comment down below just on the Battlefield game or anything you want. Just don't be a dick. That's the only rule in the comment section. I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and I'll see you in game.